the situation we're in Ukraine with Russia was not only avoidable, but it was predicted by every expert who ever talked about it. And then, of course, Joe Biden and the United States just ignored all that. And it's as if the United States and NATO wanted a confrontation like this to happen in Ukraine. It's as if. So I'll show you. Here's what Aaron Mates tweeted out. He says, condemnations of Putin without acknowledging that the conflict started in 2014 are meaningless. United States backed the Maidan coup in 2014 and fueled the ensuing Donbass war, where 14,000 plus have died with the United States weapons. So I'm going to show you a video where Lindsey Graham and John McCain brag about, and Adam Schiff brag about arming those people in the Donbass to fight Russia. Russia's invasion is a new phase. It's illegal, but not out of the blue. And so this gentleman did a Twitter thread. He said, most fascinating thing about the Ukraine war is the sheer number of top strategic thinkers who warned for years that it was coming if we continued down the same path. No one listened to them, and here we are. Small compilation. So it goes from Kissinger to, here's the first guy. This first guy's name is Mearsheimer. Now, I never heard of this guy before, but this is a speech he gave in June 2015, and he's considered like the leading guy on foreign policy and international politics and stuff. And he gave this speech, so this is like, 7 years ago? And so listen to what he has to say, what got us to this point.
But I actually think that what's going on here is that the West is leading Ukraine down the primrose path. And the end result is that Ukraine is going to get wrecked. And I believe that the policy that I'm advocating, which is neutralizing Ukraine and then building it up economically and getting it out of the competition between Russia on one side and NATO on the other side, is the best thing that could happen to the Ukrainians. What we're doing is encouraging the Ukrainians to play tough with the Russians. We're encouraging the Ukrainians to think that they will ultimately become part of the West, because we will ultimately defeat Putin and we will ultimately get our way. Time is on our side. And of course, the Ukrainians are playing along with this. And the Ukrainians are almost completely unwilling to compromise with the Russians and instead want to pursue a hardline policy. As I said to you before, if they do that, the end result is that their country is going to be wrecked.
And it's happening.
What we're doing is, in effect, encouraging that outcome. I think it would make much more sense for us to work to create a neutral Ukraine. It would be in our interest to bury this crisis as quickly as possible. It certainly would be in Russia's interest to do so. And most importantly, it would be in Ukraine's interest to put an end to the crisis. Thank you. Interesting
that you never hear that guy on the MSNBCs or the CNNs or even the Fox Newses. I don't ever hear that guy anywhere. Do you ever hear that guy anywhere, Max?
Well, there's a reason, and it isn't necessarily related to Ukraine or Russia. It's that he co-authored a book along with another top international relations professor, Stephen Walt, called The Israel Lobby. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh. No, I don't remember that, but that's it. He's dead then.
It was a best-selling book. It was really the first book by two of the top IR scholars in the U.S. on the existence of an Israel lobby, and then they were painted as anti-Semites. Like the whole campaign that we saw against Jeremy Corbyn was sort of rolled out against them, and they had their reputations destroyed day after day by people like Atlantic editor and former Israeli prison guard Jeffrey Goldberg. So Mearsheimer's already been kind of marginalized, and that's maybe why you don't see him on MSNBC, although he is so much more distinguished and has far more credentials than the clowns you see on there, like Michael McFaul.
So there's one amazing expert who you would never think that. Even watching other YouTube shows, you would never think like, wait a minute, we intentionally pursued this path that was going to lead to this confrontation, knowing that the Ukraine people were going to pay the price, and we are hanging them out to dry. And we encourage this. So again, it's amazing to me that you're not going to hear this anywhere else except on the Gray Zone or maybe Aaron's Twitter feed. I haven't heard anybody, I haven't seen it, anybody else covering this correctly in the United States. Oh, I saw Glenn Greenwald did he did a good job. But but it is. Are you? I have some more experts I'm going to show you that say basically the same thing, and because I just want to make the case, it's overwhelming. But I'm shocked. Actually, I know I can't believe I am. Maybe it's because I'm naive and stupid and gullible, and I thought that people learned a lesson from Iraq or Syria or Libya or Afghanistan, or they haven't. Are you as stunned as I am with the poor media coverage?
Not after Russiagate. This was all kind of, I got to say, this is kind of expected. I'm a little bit, well, we can talk about it. I'm a little bit shocked at how I think, even I would imagine even the, Russian security apparatus is a little bit shocked by how emotionally the West is reacting. And they're basing all their decisions on hysteria, including kicking Russian students out of universities, punishing Russian artists for refusing to publicly condemn Putin. There's the most famous hockey player here in Washington, Ovechkin. He's Russian. There's enormous pressure on him from the sports media to denounce Putin publicly. Texas and the Texas Restaurant Association has banned all Russian products. A friend of mine who teaches in New Jersey public school sent me bulletins where they're doing, talks for the students on how to support Ukraine in like public schools. I mean, it's gotten. And then we watched the State of the Union last night, where if you weren't wearing blue, you had to wear yellow or yellow and blue with the Ukrainian flag. AOC had a little like pendant on for Ukraine, and there was a clip in honor of Operation Paperclip, I guess, holding it to her shirt. But I mean, it's almost like we have to all be Ukraine firsters. And that's a little bit, that's a little bit over the top. I guess I didn't expect that, along with all the other, meaningful decisions, emptying the tank on sanctions, like removing Russia from the SWIFT system, targeting the Russian central bank. All of this will come back to bite the U.S. economy. And the fact is, most Americans care more about gas prices and inflation than they do about fighting for some oligarchic autocracy thousands of miles away.
Here's Noam Chomsky. Here's what he has to say. This was predicted. I think this is from 2015, maybe. Here we are.
The idea that Ukraine might join a Western military alliance would be quite unacceptable to any Russian leader. This goes back to 1990, when the Soviet Union collapsed. There was a question as to what would happen with NATO. Gorbachev agreed to allow Germany to be unified and to join NATO. It's a pretty remarkable concession, with a quid pro quo that NATO would not expand 1 inch to the east. That was the phrase that was used.
So Russia has been provoked.
Well, what happened? NATO instantly moved to East Germany. Then Clinton came along, expanded NATO right to the borders of Russia. Now there are the new Ukrainian government, the government after the overthrow of the preceding one. The parliament voted, I think 300 to 8 or something like that, to move to join NATO.
Which you can understand why they would want to join NATO. You can see why Petro Poroshenko's government would probably see that it's protecting his country.
No, it's not protect. Crimea was taken away after the overthrow of the government, right? He's not protecting Ukraine, is threatening Ukraine with major war. That's not protection. The point is, this is a serious strategic threat to Russia, which any Russian leader would have to react to. That's well understood.